Hi everyone, and welcome to today's episode in our IT Tech Talk series. During the series, we're talking through different ways to help you make the most of your Splunk instance through short webinars that focus on apps and add-ons, features, best practices, and more. Today's talk is part 2 of My Start Will Go On, which is focused on the technical add-on, or TA, for Windows. My name is Caitlin, and I'm a product marketer here at Splunk, and I'm joined today by my co-host Henning, who's a consulting sales engineer here. He's going to walk you through today's deeper dive into the Windows TA and show off some of the add-on in action. Over to you, Henning.
Thank you very much, Caitlin. I'm happy to be here again. Hello from Germany. So let's do a little bit of a recap during the session, and then we dive into some searching, and I will also cover a few visualization options. One is, of course, the Windows app for infrastructure, or the infrastructure app for Windows, and then also ITSI. We will also cover a little bit the Splunk app for infrastructure, and some additional resources. Yeah, from the last session, we know that the Windows TA is a great starting point for Splunk Windows, not only for event logs, but also for performance data, WMI, registry, PowerShell script execution, Bash script execution. Yeah, actually every log file that is actually stored on Windows operating system, so even just standard text logs. And it's a great sample configuration, really. And it's also being used actually at other parts of Splunk as well. So not only for just ingesting logs, but also for other apps. And we're going to cover this. The way how I did it in the first session was that I integrated the data with the inputs conf right away, so to say. And because of this, all the data is actually being written to the main index, so index equal to main. That is not always the best to go through, and the docs have information about how you would normally store the data also in different indexes, like, for example, an index called Windows or an index called Win Event Log. This was actually in the first versions of the TA. This was actually part of the configuration, but they removed it because of some cloud stuff. And but it's good to know, and it's important to know that actually there are apps out there that expect the data to be in other indices, like, for example, Windows. So check the docs if you get across this. Apart from that, just show the data to you and let the data talk to you, really. In my point of view, it's really having lots of information about what's going on, and I'm going to show you this in the next demo. Like this search here is a good example. Index equal to Windows, so in this case, the data is actually stored in the Windows index. And we are looking at the failed updates, right? So I guess you know Windows is sending out all of these updates, and it could happen that some updates are failing. It was just recently within a service pack of Windows 10, there were updates failing. And of course, you would like to know why updates might fail, especially the ones that are security relevant. And with this search, you get a good information about what is going on with the failed updates. Now, this is raw data, of course, but of course, you could even do a time chart and compare, for example, historically, the failed updates over time, see if it's getting more, if it's getting less, and stuff like this. So always good results to look at. So let's start with one of the first demos. And I will show you this SPL here as well, of course, on my data. But before I show you the status of the services out of Splunk, I'm going to show you some other stuff. So let me head over to my demo instance. Give me a second.
So that's the first bits and pieces that I wanted to show. So this is actually data from this Microsoft SQL Server that I was showing some stuff of, I think, from during the last session as well. And this box actually has also registry keys being splunked as well. So you just surf through the data and see what's going on here with the registry in the last 15 minutes here. And we can see that actually there are some keys here being changed, and these are the actions. So there are a few deletes as well. So let me just check the deletes here. And so what kind of registry keys are being deleted? So it's this thing here in this path. So it's quite easily to see what's going on there when things are happening to the registry, to this SQL server. So that's the first bit. If I want to see the status information as well, of course I can do that as well. I just use the SPL from the last slide and change it here. So I'm just adding the stuff after type equal to service because I want to stick to the host name and the index. And there you are. Now I have my current state, so to say, of the services as the Windows TA, and the forwarder sends it to me here. All right. Same thing also with the Windows update log. So in this case, on this installation here, I have an index called Windows where all the update logs are being stored. And of course, I can easily then search for failed or error or whatever have you and see what's going on here. Okay, let's go back to the slides again.
Okay, now we are back. So let's do our next bits and pieces. So this is a visualization option. This is the Splunk app for Windows infrastructure. The Windows infrastructure app has been around for quite some time now. It's quite old, but it's great for a first view on Windows data. It's really good for a consistent overview on Windows, but it needs a working Active Directory setup, and you have to install the supporting add-on for Active Directory for this and set it up accordingly so that this add-on will actually retrieve the data from the Active Directory. But once you've done that, it actually generates lots of dashboards. It actually has lots of dashboards on event logs and performance data and also Active Directory stuff. And lots of it is actually derived from Windows, from the Windows TA. You might need to change a few things to make it work. One of the things, for example, is the macros. There are starting macros that actually tell you where the data is stored, so in which indices the data is actually stored, right? Remember, I've said this before. And you might maybe need some changes on the inputs come for this. The Windows infrastructure app needs to be set up accordingly, and it actually has some wizards to do this, and the app will guide you through the setup. It will create some lookups based on the data. It will also do the checks of the data itself. So if there is sufficient data, for example, for certain dashboards and certain counters from the Windows TA source. This is a list of dashboards that are being covered with this app. And I'm going to show you around with this to this app now. So let me head over to the demo system again.
So this is the starting screen of the Splunk app for Windows infrastructure. From here, you can go into the health information, resource utilization, and get a screen about the updates currently going on in your Windows infrastructure. And one of the things that I wanted to show you is the Active Directory stuff. This is actually the Active Directory overview. And the reason why I want to show you this is that one of my customers really liked this way of splunking the Active Directory information because with this they had an easier view of what's going on and in terms of shared volumes that you need for Active Directory, as well as the replication stuff and all of this. And you could use this really as a starting point to create your own app, to create your own stuff that you own dashboards for what you need, for example, for Active Directory monitoring or any other stuff. They actually did the same thing. So they used the app to get a glimpse on what is possible, and then created their dashboards from there. And they're quite happy with this. I have also my Windows infrastructure app running in my own system. Oh, there it is. So that's my box again. And but it's not full blown, but because I don't have an Active Directory set up at home, right? I mean, there might be people who have this, but yeah, I don't. Yeah, well, it's just a little bit of overkill. And I can, just drive through my host information there and use the event viewer from the app to see what's going on. Now, this, for example, is my Lenovo laptop that I have here on my desk, and it's humming currently, and I see what's going on, and what's the network adapters like, and then the RAM and all that stuff. So quite nice. I think I covered this a little bit, but if you want to also use it, you have to connect the ADmon stuff as well. This is actually shown in the guided setup. I can just give you a little show around here. So this is the guided setup of the Splunk F4 Windows infrastructure. It will check the prerequisites, of course, Splunk and the add-on, of course. It also needs the supported add-on for Microsoft Windows Active Directory, because it retrieves lots of stuff also from the AD via LDAP. You also need a user that has the WinFra admin role associated to this. And then, it will check the data and customize features and stuff. What I did is I just bypassed the checks, and also bypass these checks here, because they will actually check what where the data is, and if there is enough data actually to run through the next phase of the app. And that next phase of the app will actually be the customizing of features, and this will be this one here. So customize features. This will look what kind of data is there, will detect, so to say, what it actually can do. So this is how you set it up, and then you hit save, and then it's done. Then the whole app is set up appropriately. Okay, so let's go back to the slides again and to the next stuff that I want to show you.
Okay, it took me a bit of time to get this running on my system or on my indexer, maybe because my system is a little bit, not tidy, I'd say, as well. But nonetheless, there are some possible pitfalls that you could encounter. And this is why I added the slide here. So first bit is really this thing with the indices, and the other stuff is actually the mode option to the performance performance dancers. They are currently set to multi-KV, which is the standard option, especially for the Splunk App infrastructure for the metric injection. But to make it work for this app, you need to change this mode option to single then to make it work. Okay, so let's move further on to the next visualization. Well, it's not just a visualization, isn't it? So, of course, you can do AI ops on Windows TA data. Sure thing. And the vehicle or the app that I'm going to be using for this is, of course, IT Service Intelligence. So let's have a look at this. First things first, to make it work, you have to change the macro again so that ITSI will actually see the Windows TA data. So similarly to the app before, you need to change this here. So what I did is actually I copied over the default macros.conf from this directory here, from the DA ITS iOS directory, and then change it accordingly so that I add it so that I can see the Windows DA data with ITSI. And this is needed, otherwise it won't work. When ITSI is able to see the data, you can actually generate entities out of it. One of a common type of entity is, of course, a server itself, sorry, Windows Server. And you can use one of the modules from ITSI, the OS module. It has a base search that you can use to discover these servers, these Windows servers. And if you don't see anything here when you're using this search from the module, then you know that you might need to change the modules then. I'm going to show you this in the demo. Yeah, and this is how it would look like, right? So on the top left, there is the service. In my case, for example, Windows environment. And lower left, you have the KPIs. In the middle, there is the Windows environment service with some KPIs that I've added to the service. And on the right-hand side, you see the entities. So in this case, the Windows servers. And of course, you can create anything as an entity. So any like grouping object, so to say, or any or we call it a configuration item can be an entity within ITSI. So let's just stop the demo, head over and again.
Okay, so this is my my ITSI setup, which is running in AWS, and this VPC is connected to my home router or home firewall, let's say. And this ITSI setup is actually a search that gets its data from the indexer that is running in my home lab. This is the Windows environment service that I created before, which has these 5 KPIs associated to this. And I would like to show you now how I configure this. So I use the entity discovery search. Of course, you could also manually create entities, but in my point of view, it's more easier to import entities via a search. So that's the way how I do this normally. And I use the modules in this case because we have data coming in from Windows, and this Windows source is supported with the operating system module that comes with ITSI. So I choose this module. This is it, OS host import, and I should be able to see stuff already. There you go. So these are my 3 boxes. That's my Lenovo desktop and the other 2 systems here, the other 2 servers that I actually can, running on AWS as well in my VPC. I could import these boxes now right away, but I would like to do this a bit easier for me. I want to associate them already with a service so that I don't have to do this manually afterwards. So I say eval service equal to, I don't know, it's winenv, let's call it this way, right? So I now added a new column called service with the value of winenv, and this is the service that I want to create. So let's go to the next step. And the next step would be choosing the columns that go into the entity stuff. So like this one here, the host name should be the entity title. And then this could be the entity information field, and version maybe also this, and vendor product could be into the entity description, and so on and so forth. yeah, ITSI role should be, could be alias, whatever. And of course, the important bit is this service title here. Because I added this WinEnv service field, and I want this to be imported as a service. So there it is, service title. There is no dependency in here because I'm only importing one service and not multiple ones. And these are the entities to be imported. And yeah, the import service should be services as enabled so that the service will already be used, so to say, in ITSI and not grayed out. And if I would have a conflict on the entities, so if I already have, so to say, entities that have the same value as this one here, then it should update the existing ones. And the key for this would be the host field. And yeah, well, I already have some of them. So now it is completed. So the import is completed. So I have one new service, or updated ones. Of course, this one is actually new. And these are the three created and updated ones. So I click on View All Service. So there it is, WinEnv. That's the new one. That's the old one, right? So this is the new one. And but what you can see is that there are no KPIs associated to the new one here, right? So I have these 5 ones in the old one, and of course I need some KPIs here with this new one as well. So let me dive into the service. Quick check on the entities. There we are. So this is the result from our search via import via search. And now I would like to add some KPIs. And these are the KPIs that come with the ITSI modules. The ones with for application servers and of course databases. So they are all documented in the ITSI guides. And somewhere further down, there it is. There are the operating system KPIs. And one of the things is CPU utilization that I'm interested in. This is a wizard that comes with this. So this is using actually a base search from the ITSI module for operating systems. And yeah, I can't edit anything here because this actually comes from the base search configuration. And yeah, I'm not going to do any backfills. And now I have this threshold screen here. And it actually tells me that there is already data. Yeah. So I could even like check, for example, for the last 4 hours or something, if I have enough data. But it's good for me this way. I also leave the thresholds as it is. I could maybe just remove this one here and then, I don't know, squeeze it to my needs and then hit finish. And then I have my first KPI associated with this. And of course, I can use any data from that is coming in from Windows now, from the Windows TA, even like any registry information, for example, right? You would actually use then this with the generic KPI, and you will use any of the searches that you have been that we have used before, like for example the one with the registry operations, right? We could use this here as a generic KPI. Now we are finished with this with this one KPI with this KPI, and now you could like add this maybe in to other services as well as a dependent service, and then like change the health score information for other services and stuff. And of course, you can also do the predictive stuff, right? So like using any algorithms from the machine learning toolkit that comes with that ITSI uses in the backend to do your prediction of the service. Of course, you would need some data before this, right? I mean, you configure the entities and the services before and leave it running for a few weeks maybe so that you have enough data. and then you can actually play around with this predictive analytics stuff. All right, this is it. So let's go back.
So back in the slides again. I'm jumping demos here. So next bit is the metric index. How do we get Windows metrics into the metric index? No. And this is done with the Splunk app for infrastructure. That's our stop now. The Splunk app for infrastructure is really an easy button to get these Windows metrics in there. There is a configuration UI. You see this there on the right-hand screen that actually, well, has some metrics that you could choose from and some event logs that you choose from. And then you provide the names of some ports and stuff. And on the lower end, you actually get some commands that you can actually copy and paste onto your console on the on Windows. And then the forwarder gets installed, plus the configuration that that the Splunk app for infrastructure needs to create servers, so to say, in the UI. So great stuff. And from there, you can, of course, get the configuration so they can roll it out with your own means, like, for example, with a deployment server. Okay, so the Windows TA is a great starting point, but of course there is more. And one of the things is, for example, the MS SQL add-on, so for the Microsoft SQL Server. This has some great configuration stuff in the inputs com, for example, for pathmon data that is important for SQL Server, as well as some configuration for the DB Connect. I guess you know DB Connect. That's the app to retrieve data from SQL tables via JDBC calls. And the SQL add-on actually uses not only pathmon data, but also JDBC connection to get data from a SQL server. But the other things here are also great. So the Uber agent, for example, there is a cost associated with this because it's not from us, and it's actually a company from Germany that created this. It's a guy from who used to be a Citrix MVP. I think he still is. And it's great for looking at performance of Windows clients, really. And lots of customers in Germany are using it, and I think even in the US. And there is also another great app which is called Object ID. And we are going to send out a link with a demo of Object ID and Uber Agent to you with a follow-up email. Okay, so this was it. Thank you very much. And now back to you, Caitlin, again.
Great. Thank you so much, Henning, for sharing your expertise with us on this topic. Including the slide here are some additional resources that we thought might be valuable to all of you. And we'll also include these resources in the follow-up email for easy reference. So if you want to continue the learning on this topic, feel free to check out our community.splunk.com site, where there's a ton of great ways to engage with other Splunk users. Here you'll find Splunk answers, discussions and best practices for implementing the Windows OS monitoring, and a brand new section for IT Tech Talks where you can ask more questions about this Tech Talk. That's it for today. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.